Apokatastasis. Apokatastasis is a theological term derived from the Greek word, apokatastasis, which can be translated to mean, restoration, or, restitution. This concept has been widely debated and interpreted in various ways within Christian theology, particularly in relation to the ultimate fate of humanity and the cosmos. In its most basic sense, apokatastasis refers to the idea that all things will ultimately be restored to their original state or condition. This concept is rooted in the belief that God's original creation was perfect and harmonious, but that this perfection was disrupted by the entrance of sin and evil into the world. Apokatastasis thus entails the belief in a future time when God's redemptive work will culminate in the restoration of all things to their initial state of perfection and harmony. The concept of apokatastasis can be traced back to the early Church Fathers, such as Origen of Alexandria c. 185–254, who espoused the idea of the universal restoration of all souls to a state of grace and unity with God. Origen's belief in the ultimate salvation of all was rooted in his understanding of divine justice and love, as well as his commitment to the principle of free will. According to Origen, God's love for his creation is so great that he will not allow any soul to be eternally separated from him, and that through a process of purification and spiritual growth, all souls will eventually be reconciled to God. However, Origen's views on apokatastasis were met with significant controversy and were ultimately condemned as heretical by various church councils, including the Council of Constantinople in 553. Critics of Origen's position argued that his belief in the universal salvation of all souls undermined the importance of moral responsibility and the reality of eternal punishment for the wicked. Despite its controversial nature, the concept of apokatastasis continued to be discussed and debated by theologians throughout the centuries. In the medieval period, the idea of apokatastasis was often associated with the doctrine of the restitution of all things, mentioned in Acts 3:21, which speaks of a time when God will restore everything as it was in the beginning. This idea was taken up by various mystical and eschatological movements within Christianity, such as the Joachimite movement and the spiritual Franciscans, who anticipated a future age of spiritual renewal and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. In the modern era, the concept of apokatastasis has been revisited by various theologians and philosophers, who have sought to reconcile the idea of divine justice and love with the reality of evil and suffering in the world. Some contemporary theologians, such as Jürgen Moltmann and Karl Rahner, have argued for a more inclusive understanding of salvation that allows for the possibility of the ultimate redemption of all creation. Others, such as Hans Urs von Balthasar, have emphasized the importance of maintaining the tension between the hope for universal salvation and the recognition of human freedom and responsibility. In addition to its soteriological implications, the concept of apokatastasis has also been applied to various other theological themes, such as the relationship between God and creation, the nature of time and history, and the ultimate destiny of the cosmos. For example, some theologians have used the idea of apokatastasis to argue for a more dynamic and relational understanding of God's involvement in the world, in which God's creative and redemptive work is seen as an ongoing process of bringing all things into greater harmony and unity. In conclusion, the concept of apokatastasis has played a significant and controversial role in the history of Christian theology, as it raises important questions about the nature of God's love, justice, and redemptive work in the world. While the idea of the universal restoration of all things has been criticized and rejected by many theologians as being incompatible with the reality of human freedom and moral responsibility, the concept of apokatastasis continues to inspire and challenge contemporary theologians to reflect on the ultimate scope and purpose of God's redemptive plan for creation.